back. Another episode of Life's a Pitch. Today is a special episode because we finally ventured beyond the boundaries of Dorset.
We've gone beyond, finally. The one thing in our tagline, which we haven't done yet until today, is we have gone beyond Bournemouth.
Oh.
I think that deserves a little cheers. There you go.
A little cheers. Celebratory drinky poos. Anyway, this week we're in London interviewing Raj, who is the founder of a lovely little agency up there called WordUp.
WordUp?
I knew you were going to do that. Sorry for him. But,
Sorry for him. Okay. No. Raj is chill, don't worry.
But thank you so much to Raj for coming on and chatting to us, and we hope you guys enjoy it. Hello, welcome back. Today is a really exciting one because we're finally living up to our little tagline of being the creative industries podcast for Bournemouth and beyond.
Yes, we are in...
We're in London today. Well, we're in London.
It counts. It counts.
Yeah. You can take that.
Let's not get bogged down in semantics. Today we're very lucky to be joined by Raj.
Yes.
And he's very kindly hosted us in his beautiful house. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. Really good.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right, a little bit apprehensive. Never done a podcast before. But, I'm looking forward to it.
It's alright, we'll go easy on you.
Good.
Right, kicking this off straight away. Can you describe what you do to an alien?
To an alien?
Yes, to another life form.
Another life form that knows nothing about the way our world works, but can speak English, weirdly enough.
Okay, so I would say that if these aliens ran businesses and they traded with consumers and other businesses, my job is to help them to understand what value their business provides to others,
right,
and to crystallise those messages and then write those up into engaging content and words to engage their audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good.
Bob the alien approves.
Yes,
Is it Bob or the Kevin?
No, those are the minions.
Oh, never mind.
Different.
Technically they're aliens.
Yeah, I suppose so. No,
but if anyone knows if an alien is a minion is an alien, just get in touch.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about you yourself. Tell us your story. I mean, what sparked your interest in going into this aspect of work?
So I think it all happened by accident, to be honest. I think when I was younger and when I went to university, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I studied economics. I kind of fell in and out of jobs. And I think the reason was I really didn't have a clear direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just thought I should be in business or I should be doing this or that. I fell into working in the agency field. And for about 20 years, I was new business director or business development director for a number of different agencies, which actually started off being great. Working for agencies, it's a lot of fun when you're young. Yeah. It's a cool place to be. The work was great. I was about to say clients, but I'm going to say great, colleagues and friends. But I think for me, it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. Being in agencies was fine, but actually doing business development, looking back, I don't think was quite right for me. But when you have a family and when you have to provide for them, you kind of continue doing it. It's very difficult to switch careers. But actually, the decision was kind of made for me because about 4 years ago, I lost my job. And I spent almost 2 years looking for another job. And it was a very, very tough period, sort of financially and with family. And I've got 2 young kids. And it got to the point where we were really struggling, and my wife sort of said to me, "Look, just stop applying for those jobs. Obviously, they're not right for you. It's not happening. Do what you want to do." And that was really kind of freed me up because I sort of sat back and thought, okay, so this is kind of as bad as it's going to get. Yeah. So let's regroup and let's work out what to do. And you see all these self-help books and people talking about businesses, and they sort of say, do what you love. If you want to be successful, follow your passion, you'll find a way. And I never really took much notice of that until a few years ago. And I thought, okay, so let's try this. Let's see what we can do. My passion is words. I love writing. And I think for numbers of years, I've written lots of short stories, writing a novel, I've written screenplays. So I sort of thought, okay, well, copywriting would make me really happy. I'm good at it, but I need to make a living. I need to earn good money because I've got 2 young kids. So it took me a couple of years to work out, but I worked out that if I pair up my writing experience with my agency business development experience, there's something in that. Mm-hmm. And I realised that every single agency I'd ever worked for had exactly the same problem. They were very good at creating campaigns for their clients, but when it came to their own content, to their own messages, to their own communications, to their audience, they just never got around to it, because client work has to take precedent. You know, it's what pays the bills. So every single agency I worked at, there was a long list of things like, we've got to rewrite our website copy, we've got to write case studies, we need white papers, we need thought leadership articles. So that was really the insight. That sort of came to me out of nowhere, actually. And then my first client was an old MD of mine who said, we need all of our website copy done and we need all of our case studies rewritten. And off the back of that, I set up WordUp Communications. Mm-hmm. And I just went for it. I thought, okay, well, I've got nothing else. Yeah. I've got to go for this. And so 2 years ago this January, I set up on my own from scratch. And it's been amazing. You know, I'm kind of over 2 years into it. I've got some great clients now. If you'd asked me how business is going, it's going well. Mm-hmm. But one thing I've also learned is, you know, I can't say it's brilliant because it's up and down. Yeah. And that's the nature of a startup as well. So I've learned a lot over the last couple of years. I'm doing great work, and above all, for the first time in my life, I absolutely love what I do, mm-hmm. which is very freeing. Yeah. But it's great. So that's kind of how I've got here.
Mm-hmm. So for people who don't particularly know what WordUp does, how would you put that into context?
So I basically work predominantly with marketing agencies. Okay. And produce content for them. Mm-hmm. And when I first started doing that, it was a case of sitting down with partners of the business or MDs, and they'd sit down and say, well, we need a thought leadership article and we need case studies rewritten. And I quite quickly sort of realised that there wasn't enough there. Lots of agencies, they were giving me lots of things to do, but they didn't have a clear idea about their business. They couldn't tell me the basics of who are you as a business and what do you do, what value do you provide to your clients, and why should your clients work with you and not your competitors, which are the basic questions for any kind of a business, because without that information, there's no point in producing any content. If you don't know who you're talking to and what you're trying to tell them and what you want them to do as a result of that, it's just a waste of money. So what I started doing then was running these workshops. So we're probably 80% of my new clients now, I'll run a value proposition workshop. Mm-hmm. So I'm going for half a day. I'll sit down with the heads of the business, and I'll basically help them to get to a point where we get a good understanding of their business, who they are and what is it that they exactly do, why they do it, and as I mentioned earlier, what value they provide to their clients. Because of my business development background, I also talk quite a lot about business development. They need to have a very clear idea of not just where they are as an agency now, but where they're heading, where they want to be, who are the kinds of clients they want to be working with. And then we kind of work backwards with regards to refining those core messages for their audience. So after the workshop, I'll write up a value proposition statement for them. And then all of those core values from the workshop I document, and then I weave them into any content that I produce for the agency. And that's everything, as I mentioned, from website content, even through to case studies. Mm-hmm. At the moment, for any agency, their most valuable sales tool is their case study. Mm-hmm. And often it's their most neglected sales tool. You know, they get they finish a project, they don't write it up, or they'll get an account manager to write it up, and then you have 10 case studies written by 10 different account managers, different tone of voice, different writing style. So what I do is I obviously can do it in a consistent way, but I also weave in those core messages. So if a marketing director of a business is looking at an agency, he might pick up 2-3 case studies.
Yep.
So not only is he getting a well-written and engaging piece about the work that the agency did, but he's also being fed those core values of the agency that they want it also to communicate to him as well.
So is that where the tagline for WordUp comes through? Is because your tagline is the agency's agency.
Yes.
I think that's a brilliant tagline for. I mean, it perfectly encapsulates the work you do.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually. Do you know what? That came out sort of a couple of years ago when I was doing all this stuff and working out, well, how do I talk about myself? And it came to me actually, it's about 2:00 in the morning, and I woke up and I wrote it down. I thought, that's genius. And I still think it's genius. But I've also found out that there are a few other agencies that also call themselves the agency's agency.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually had a meeting with one of the guys, and it was quite funny. And I was telling myself I thought I was a genius, and we're all geniuses. But yeah, I mean, it's been used, but it does work well.
It does.
Yeah.
I think so.
So thank you.
So we touched a little bit earlier about why you started working with agencies, and I just wanted to ask a little bit about what do you think has shaped your approach to working with these agencies rather than
What's shaped my in the way that I work with them?
Yeah, what's been your main influence?
I think it's mainly just repetitively meeting new people and working with them. And I think the more I've done that, and I sit down with owners of businesses or partners of businesses, you just learn a lot more. And I think, I mean, actually, that is a good question, because I think I do have an approach, and I think some of that comes from realizing that in order to really get your message across, I think one of the most important things is to be totally honest and authentic. And I think a lot of people, or lots of agencies, don't do that. Yeah. What they do is their starting point can be, okay, well, how do we want to talk about ourselves? Rather than really working out, well, who are we? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I always encourage anyone that I speak to. And if they are saying stuff that I think isn't quite right or or if they're not being too honest, I will say that to them, because I think that's the cornerstone of any good communication. I think if you are totally honest about who you are and what you do, and that includes showing your vulnerabilities as well, and going to people and saying, okay, well, we're not very good at this, but we're very good at this. Or we've had problems with this, but this is how we've come through that, and we're better at this now. I think that's the thing that creates a connection with your audience. Because at the end of the day, whatever you're saying, we can call them consumers or customers or whatever, they're human beings. And actually, if you strip everything back, what you're trying to do, you're trying to say something that resonates with them and makes them do something that you want, or get them interested in what you do.
Yeah.
And that comes down to the very basic level, I think, of human connection when you first meet somebody. And I've noticed this from a lot of meetings that I have with people. I meet loads of people from LinkedIn for coffees, and I'm always honest with them. And what I've noticed is, to the point where I say to them, okay, well, this is how WordUp came about, and I did lose my job, and I had a tough time. And I'm not saying that for a fact, but I'm saying that because I just want people to know, well, this is the truth, and this is where I've come from. And what I've noticed is that people can change in that meeting quite quickly. So from lots of meetings, you can start off with them having a bit of a front, which is part and parcel of business. But I don't think it has to be. I think actually, if you just don't do that and you are totally honest, that emotional connection makes that meeting better. And I think it's the same for any kind of communication, is that honesty. So I guess that's where my starting point comes with any business that I work with, on a personal level with them, but also with formulating and writing their messages for their audience.
And drawing from what you said before about how what you do is things like writing copy for different things, screenplays and all of that. You've done loads of
Yes.
writing,
Yes.
basically. I was wondering, could you give us maybe speaking specifically about the advertising field, is there an example of really good copy or copy that's really stood out to you and really bad copy, and what you think makes good or bad copy?
Bad copy. I was one of the first jobs I had, and I was very lucky to get it. It's through a friend. I got to write Tag Heuer's global social media posts for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So I worked with this agency, writing that for them for about 6 months. So Tag Heuer was in my head.
Yeah.
So whenever I see Tag Heuer adverts now, I'm drawn to them in a magazine and I read them, and they're awful. They're so badly written, and it's gibberish and it doesn't make sense, and I have no idea how they're getting away with it, you know. And actually, I'm planning to write off to find out who's in charge and get in touch with them and say, let me have a go, because you really need some help, you know. For good advertising, for me, because I'm a copywriter, the stuff that resonates with me is more copy-based stuff. So, and it's usually when I'm in London for meetings and seeing sort of posters in the tubes. One thing I really like is long copy.
Yeah.
On those big posters in the underground, because I think even though it's almost the kind of, it almost intuitively feels like the wrong place to have lots and lots of words when there's trains coming and going and people passing by.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it works, because it's not a big image with, you know, really beautifully crafted, or not always beautifully crafted copy, but it's actually, there's something there that's inviting you to engage with it and to give up your time and to invest. And actually, when you do that, and I actually can't think of one now, actually, but I remember there's been a couple where I've stood there and it just draws you in. The copy, people talk about storytelling or whatever it is, the narrative, it connects with you. And that's the kind of stuff that really kind of gets me, inspires me as well.
I think the one that just immediately came to my mind was Jack Daniels.
They do quite a lot of those, and that is quite nice. You know, it is nicely written, and by the end of it, you've got the message.
Yeah,
you know, it's I think it probably sticks with people because you're spending the time to engage with it, and for those words to sort of get into your brain, and
you're almost taking on sort of like a journey, aren't you? In that short space of time,
yeah,
where you're just sort of thinking this is just a whiskey brand, but there's so much more history behind it, and there's so much more to the story, in a way.
You learn a lot in a short amount of time, and you're engaged, which I guess what good communication is all about. Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about yourself and your agency and your approach, and you mentioned you like to meet new people.
Yeah.
And get ready for this, because this is an absolutely amazing segue that I was going to do earlier, but I couldn't.
I still don't know where you're going with this.
So,
right, okay. Now
we all met at an event in Bournemouth called Open Source, which is networking with a purpose, to steal their tagline. And we just wanted to know what drew you down there. I mean, how did you come about finding out about it and getting down to Bournemouth?
It was through LinkedIn. Part of my strategy in LinkedIn has been to link in with lots of agency people.
Yeah.
And try to meet up for a coffee or whatever. And I hooked up with George Beverley on LinkedIn, and I know that you've interviewed him.
Yes,
lovely chap.
We love George.
Yeah, and we had a Skype call maybe 6 or 8 months before Open Source. It was just a meeting, like a lot of my meetings. It's kind of a meet and greet. We introduced ourselves and what we do, and I guess a lot of these things are about, I always try to work out how can we support one another, because there are a lot of creative, a lot of people running, whether they're individual consultants or running a small business, but I think it's a nice way of working is to support one another. So we had a really nice chat. You know, there may be potential where we can get together on projects or introduce one another to other people, and then that Georgia stuck in my mind, and
Yeah.
then I think I saw it on LinkedIn, and then we had a chat. But
Okay.
I thought, see, a big part of my new business is networking, individual networking, and I'm always on the lookout for networking events. And I was going to a lot in London, and none of them were great. They were okay, but there weren't many where I'd come away and think, oh, well, that was a good event, and met some really interesting people. So I thought, why don't I just head down to Bournemouth? Let me just check it out. I had to get the in-laws in to look after the kids when my wife was working, and I booked a cheap B&B, and I went down, and it was a real eye-opener. When I went to the event, after about an hour, I'd realised it's probably the best networking event I've been to, probably better than any networking event in London. I met loads of really interesting people, made some good contacts, and had a great night. It was a lot of fun as well. You guys have been there, and it is just such a well set up, well organised. It's just a brilliant event. So that was it. So I went down and I came away and thought, well, that was great, and I'm going to continue going down. On the other side of it, I get a night away on my own, which is when you've got a couple of kids, very valuable.
Yeah.
So that's not the only reason I go away. I go for the networking, but sort of not having to get up early and cook breakfast and take them off to school is a bonus for a night as well.
We touched a little bit about your first impressions, but what do you think is interesting about the creative scene down there in Bournemouth?
That it's huge. You know Matt Desmier?
Yes.
Right. So Matt, I think he's done a lot of research into the number of agencies that are, and I think, now I might stand corrected, but I think he said there are kind of 425 or 400 agencies in Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch area, I think it was, which I think is a huge concentration in not a massive area.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I expected. If somebody asked me how many agencies do you think are down there, I would say 50 maybe. But it feels like there's a strong creative community down there that supports one another.
Yeah.
And it had a really nice vibe. Everyone I met was really cool, very, very nice. I met lots of people that had cut their teeth in London agencies, had got a lot of experience, and they were originally from Bournemouth, down that way, and then they decided to return for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think the whole area itself, I think Bournemouth's a very cool place. In my head, I just have, because I've never been down there, I just thought it's a place where people go to retire. And there's Lee Evans sketches about Bournemouth. I don't know if you ever saw those, but
the retirement home, yeah.
Yeah, and but it was I think just being down there by the sea, I think is a beautiful place, and I think it has a nice energy, and I think it feels like a buoyant place, and it feels like a good place to be a creative or to be running an agency as well. So I was very impressed. And I did go down to the last open source event as well, and I'll probably go down to the next one. But I'm also going to Matt's event, Silicon Beach, next week up here as well. So yeah.
So now you did speak about how you like to actively go out and try and meet people and talk to people and communicate. One of the things that I think both of us have come to notice is that, especially when you, as students, when you go to these, as anyone, to be fair, when you go to these networking events, you are technically, in a way, selling yourself constantly to different sort of people if you want to meet them. So, now this is a better segue. We were wondering whether you could give us your elevator pitch for...
Oh, that's a good segue.
For you as Raj. Yeah.
Okay.
And we normally do it, so it's a pretty quick elevator. It's about 10 seconds.
Okay.
And it is timed. So yeah, as soon as it gives you the countdown.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Go.
I work with agencies and businesses to help them understand their core values as a business, and then I integrate those core values into engaging content to help them engage with their audience.
13 seconds.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, that was good.
Good segue as well. What up, man?
I am getting better at that.
That'd be a regular thing, though, would it?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to just try and come up with like segues, like just to get to our different things.
No, that's good. That's good.
To move from point to point.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of segues, let's move on to our next banker question. Right. So one thing we also ask our guests is the new segment which we're trying out is called "Can you make the logo bigger?" So basically, the premise of this is you take the biggest sort of brand in your respective field, the ones that maybe are doing everything right, and then you say where you think that you could take them next, where you think they should go next.
Okay, I've got one. All right.
Okay.
So, and I guess it's a social thing as well.
Right.
It's a company like, let's say, Gap, for example. I think their pure focus might be moving forward is rather than the lifestyle and cool and chinos, is to really tackle the social issues and actually what they're advertising around, where their clothes comes from, and sustainability, and because that's a big thing. And I think generally in this consumerist and capitalist society, that's kind of stuff is ignored a lot. People go to Primark, they know that little kids somewhere are being exploited producing that stuff. So I think actually talking about that and making it a real conversation rather than just corporate, social responsibility and getting the right PR out there is changing the way that they work. Because I think in the world there's business and there's money and there's kind of businesses getting on, but I think we're all as a society moving far too much towards profit, overriding absolutely everything else. And it'd be nice to go back take a few steps back to making the world a better place. Because I sound like Mother Teresa. But yeah, I think it'd be like Primark or Gap really addressing those issues and coming up with brilliant campaigns to get people on side.
Just bringing about social change in a way, just changing attitudes.
And I think the advertising to reflect that.
Yeah.
Again, it's about honesty, but making real change.
A more honest world.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that was quite what you were looking for, but that's what I've got.
Good. We talked a little bit about making a change and portraying that in advertising. A big thing in the industry currently is diversity, and how do we get people from more diverse backgrounds into the industry? I just wanted to know your thoughts about that.
I think that's an interesting question. If we talk about the Asian community, I don't think it's a career choice for a lot of people. I think there's not a lot of knowledge about it or understanding about what it is exactly. And I think there's sort of IT and computer science and there's business.
Doctor, lawyer.
Yeah, the traditional stuff. And I think I think that has something to do with it. I think it's a generational thing. I think, for example, my parents came over from India in the 60s, and for them it was none of this makes any sense at all. And it is you become a doctor or a dentist. So I think it's that education thing that actually these are interesting careers and good careers to have. But I also think there's potentially a lot of people from minorities that are probably well suited to the creative industry, in that that's the way that their heads work and that's where they could really make a difference, but they just never think about it. So I think it's probably awareness and an educational piece. What form that takes, I'm not sure. Maybe it's got to be at the grassroots level where it's schools and careers advisory, but I guess it's got to come in at that kind of level. And I know from working in agencies for a long time, in the smaller to medium-sized agencies, I was probably the only or one of very few ethnic minorities working there. In the bigger agencies, there are a few more, but the disparity was huge.
Throughout your career up until today, is there any particular project that you've worked on that sticks out as being something you really enjoyed or enjoyed working on or felt extremely passionate about? Any personal projects?
Personal projects?
Yeah.
My writing, my personal writing, I get a lot of joy from. So there are a number of stories that I've written, and where, when I finished it and I look back, I sort of think that was, you get it, I don't know, I get a lot from it. I get more from my own personal creative writing than I do from probably anything else. So
Do those stories follow any specific genre, or they just
No, very
whatever comes to
random.
mind? Okay.
Whatever. It's usually whatever. There are things that pop into my head all the time.
Right.
If I had my iPhone, I would show you. But I've got in my notes, I've got like hundreds of ideas and little snippets. So what I'll do is I'll go in and whatever I'm feeling, if I read something, I think, okay, I know what to do with that, and then I'm quite random like that. But yeah, I think. But I also think that gives me a lot of help in my work. I think not writing for business and writing more creatively and without, I guess, the limits and barriers is really good for you, because it opens up your mind and it gives you a massive buzz. And I think doing good work, whether you're a graphic designer or an artist or a writer or whatever it is, it's about momentum, and it's about the small little victories that come along. So sometimes you'll write a killer line, a real killer line, and that'll keep you going because you're just buzzing from it. Or you write a great story and you take that into your work with businesses as well, which I think is a great thing.
Now I think we can move on to a 1 minute brief, which is, 1 minute brief is basically, it's a Twitter account set up by this guy who every weekday, is it?
Every weekday, yeah.
Every weekday
I've heard about it.
Yeah, he puts out a tweet saying, so today you need to advertise bananas or walkie-talkies or something like that, and basically people just tweet him in. Either there could be things from simple drawings or notes, or even some people go all the way and do a full-fledged Photoshop of something and they send them in. So today you are going to go ahead one-on-one with this man right here.
Me?
Yeah. And what is today's one? I forgot. What was it? Webcams. I'm gonna put a rule. I'm gonna put a rule on saying however you choose to promote it, it's got to be solely copy.
Okay.
No images, no drawings, nothing. Just copy.
Really?
You need to write something.
You need to write something to promote webcams.
We're supposed to be friends, man.
Well, you call yourself a copywriter. Let's test it.
How can you do this to me?
How can you do this to me?
Alright, so I shall time you, and you've got 1 minute.
1 minute to come up.
1 minute to come up with it.
You want a tagline, or you just words?
It's got to be something that would sell webcams.
1 minute, okay.
Have you got a pen?
Okay, so you've got 1 minute. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. I can hear one person scribbling. Oh, he's drawing a box. I said you can't draw stuff.
No, this is.
No, it's framing.
Yeah, exactly. Not like a box.
Webcams.
Yes,
Cameras on the. Why are they called webcam? Oh, because it's online. Oh, right, yeah.
Just gonna keep saying webcam.
You've got 20 seconds.
I know.
Webcam. I don't know if that helps. 10, 9,
Start the clock.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're done.
That's tough, hey?
Pens down. Yeah. It does get your brains racking though, so like you really have to be like, okay, I have to come up with something right now.
Yeah, there's no time to mess around.
No,
it's quite
not
good.
at all.
God.
Okay, so shall we go through both of Raj? Raj, if you'd like to go first.
Okay.
Yes, please.
And just basically, read out what you've written down and then just explain your idea.
Okay. Well, it might be shite, but
it's okay.
It's within a minute. I wrote down, be there when you can't. Tell your child a bedtime story when you're away. Blow your wife a kiss when you're not even within throwing distance. Be there now.
Ooh. Follow that up. That was good.
That's good.
Well, it's not good. It's not good, but
let's move on.
Go on.
So my idea was, it just says, a picture so good this poster can't do it justice, and then like it would be like a poster which would look rubbish. Basically.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Logitech, I see.
Don't just say that.
You've
No,
already.
it's good. I think you've won. Well done.
Now the host of the podcast can never win. It's
It's
a rule. It's a rule.
Oh, I win! Brilliant. I never win anything.
Right, just to finally wrap up, we've had a blast talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on and for having us. And we'd just like you to sum up your career in 3 words.
Another test of
That's a
copywriting.
good one. Okay. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. I'd say challenging, transformative, brilliant, because that's how I feel about it now.
Oh.
Not that last bit is just that wasn't 3 words. That was me just. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because I think early on in my career, I found things challenging. Things didn't come easy, and I think I had this huge change a few years ago, and now I'm ecstatic and I'm doing good work and I'm really enjoying it. So
Awesome. And just before we sign off, is just to let the people know, would you like to put out your website, social, anything? Where can people find you?
yeah, my website is www.wordup.agency. I've got a LinkedIn profile as well. The website actually, I'm in the middle of rewriting it. I'm doing the same thing for myself that I do for my clients, but the new words will be up in probably a month, but everything's there. Yeah, and if they need any help with getting a better grip on their agency and understanding what they do and any help on content, get in touch. We'll have a nice, friendly, honest chat. And thank you very much. I really enjoyed that.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure's all ours. That's all for this week.
Wrap it up.
We'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Life's a Pitch. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, you can like our page and leave us a comment telling us how shit we were or how great we were. That's up to you. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please leave us a rating and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can like our Facebook page, which is LAP Pod. Follow us on Twitter at Life's a Pitch Pod. And also follow us on Instagram at Life's a Pitch Pod.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.